Welcome everybody to this second session, which is looking at progression to university and vocational courses. We're just going to pause a little bit longer just to give a chance for everybody else to join the session. We were just saying that one of the advantages of this virtual world is that we get so many more participants in these kind of sessions. We've always run these sessions from college in the past, and we've maybe had 40 or 50 visitors to the university session, so it's great to have many more this time, hopefully from the comfort of your homes. Okay, the number seems to have stabilized, so I think I'll get going. So welcome everybody. My name's Ross Furman. I'm one of the assistant principals at the college. I'm responsible for student services. And this is a session which is just going to hopefully introduce you to two key topics. One is about university, one is about understanding vocational courses. It's been great over the last few weeks to interview lots of students to help them sort of finalize their courses, and to see lots of students who have already got kind of ideas in their mind about university and what they want to do and are excited about that. And we want this session to kind of help you to understand how the process works. But equally, there are lots of students who are still not very sure about things, and we just want to use this evening to reassure you about that as well, and just to kind of let you know the time scales that these things happen, and to reassure you that there's still plenty of time to make your plans and to think about what's coming next for you. Okay. In a minute, I'm going to hand over to some colleagues who are going to just talk about the different services which they offer. But just to say, please do make use of the Q&A button. If you want to ask any questions, then do click on Q&A and ask things, and there'll be an opportunity at the end to answer some of your questions. Okay, Sharon, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so we're going to just move into the university section first of all, and there are three main areas we're going to cover. And I'm going to start by introducing Julia Flynn, who is a Progression Plus coordinator and also our careers advisor at the college. She's going to talk to you about Progression Plus, which is our careers service. Julia, over to you.
Thank you, Ross. So, yes, my name's Julia and I'm based at Worthing. So I sit within the Progression Plus team at Worthing, but all the services that we offer are mirrored throughout the Chichester College group, so Haywards Heath and everywhere else as well. Before I move on to talking about the university service that we offer, I thought it'd be useful to give a bit of background to what Progression Plus actually does in the college before talking about that. So basically, we provide a range of services to help students achieve whatever they want to achieve once they leave college. And we do this through one-to-one appointments, group sessions, workshops, or whatever is most appropriate to the individual student. Included in that, we offer careers advice. We help students find part-time work and work placements. Although recently, of course, work placements have been on hold, and we've had to find alternative remote experience for students, which has been quite successful. We also support for employment and apprenticeships. So we help with CVs, applications, mock interviews, anything at all. We even train parents and carers on the systems that we use, for example, the apprenticeship application service and the university application service. So we do pretty much everything. And of course, we do provide the full service to students applying to university through the UCAS system, which is the Universities and Colleges Admission Service, which you have to use when you apply to any universities in the UK. So the rest of the presentation is about that. Next slide, please. So here's the timeline. And for Year 12s, we get started in the spring term in February, when we have our massive Careers Inspiration Day. And during that time, we invite employers, local organisations, and particularly universities to join us. And the universities give students the first intro into why apply for universities. And then we move into the higher education for students and parents. We invite parents and carers to come along to that and explain the process there. June and July, August, those summer months start to get busy with university visits, application workshops, particularly for those who are making a competitive or early application. And universities offer summer schools throughout the summer as well to students, which they can apply for independently. In the autumn term, which is now, we are really ramping up our service, running university workshops, providing one-to-one support for students, and we're approaching our first deadline, 15th of October, for early applicants, those who are applying for medicine, Oxbridge, dentistry and veterinary. But for most college students, the college deadline is the 1st of December for their UCAS application. So that's how it works throughout the year. UCAS closes their applications in January, so it's a very busy term. Next slide, please. So in Progression Plus, we're currently offering workshops to students every lunchtime, where they can come and learn about the whole process of applying to university. We've also got another workshop which is based solely on personal statements which they have to create as part of their application. And universities also run clinics for us. And in fact, this week, Chichester University is running personal statement feedback appointments remotely for our students, which is fantastic. So we get it from both sides, from within college and from the actual universities themselves. And we also offer one-to-one support. So for students who are really struggling, we do see them one-to-one book appointments in Progression Plus, or even with their own personal tutor. Next slide, please. We offer more in-depth workshops which we can give in classrooms, and today I've just offered the opportunity to teachers to invite us in. So we can look at anything with regarding to researching courses, which is the very first step, and understanding the entry requirements for universities. A lot of students are unsure on that, and it's based on their current predicted grades. And we can take them through each stage of the application process, from applying to then tracking the application, receiving offers, responding to those offers, and right through to when the results come in and accepting places right through to the next summer. And personal statements is a big part of that, of the workshops, as I've mentioned. Next one, please. So the universities are really helpful, and we work closely, particularly with our partner universities locally, Brighton, Sussex, Chichester, Portsmouth, Southampton, Winchester, and they offer workshops in the college and also in their own universities. Apologies, my camera is flashing with all sorts of colours and I don't know why. But the universities do come into college and provide statement feedback. They also, later on in the year, come back to us and talk to students about applying to finance and accommodation. And a really important one is running the mock interviews for universities. Not all courses actually require interviews, but those for nursing, teaching, medicine, dentistry, and all of those competitive courses, they will need interviews. So we work with individual students for that. I think that's given a complete overview of what we do. If there are any questions, please ask, and I'm happy to respond.
Thank you, Julia. That's great. Okay, let's move on then, please, Sharon. We're going to think briefly now about the Aspire programme, which is a programme, well, which Stephen Foden is going to introduce to you. Stephen is our Aspire coordinator here at Worthing, and this is a service we've run for many years here, and which we are about to introduce in Haywards Heath after the half term. Stephen.
Thank you, Ross. Good evening, everybody. My name's Steve Foden. I'm the Aspire coordinator, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the different aspects of the Aspire programme. There are 5 main aspects, and I'll talk through each one. It's important to start off by saying that most of the Aspire aspects of the Aspire programme are available to all students. Any student at Worthing College or Haywards Heath can take part in many of the aspects of the Aspire programme, although some aspects of them are kind of specific to particular cohorts, and I'll try and distinguish between the two as we go through that. If you could just have the next slide, please. Okay, so as it says on there, I think the vision really is to give every student the opportunity to be exposed to sort of stimulating, interesting resources. The idea being that what it might do is awaken in them an interest in a particular career, an interest in a particular university that maybe they hadn't had previously. So the idea is to expand our horizons, to give our young people the opportunity to think beyond perhaps what they'd already thought about, and give them the opportunity to maybe think a little bit more adventurously about their future and their career. A very specific aspect of Aspire, which is the competitive universities element to it, is to help students with that very particular challenge of applying to competitive universities in veterinary science, dentistry, medicine, applying to Oxford and Cambridge. And I'll say a little bit more about that shortly. But those are the sort of the two broad aspects of Aspire. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this breaks this down into these 5 elements, and I'll take you through each of them one by one, just very briefly. So the CUP, the Competitive Universities Preparation Programme, is targeted to those students who are most likely to want to make applications to competitive universities. So this is a student who's thinking of reading English at Oxford or maths at Cambridge, or they want to make an application for veterinary science or medicine or dentistry. The application deadline for them is the 15th of October, and I'm working currently with groups of students now who are beginning to think about what they might apply to next October, the 15th of October. And we've done sessions already on things like what is a Russell Group university, what distinguishes those 24 universities from the rest, what are they looking for, with the idea being that over the course of the next year, they will take part in activities that put them in the best possible place to make a successful application to one of those competitive universities. So the CUP programme is designed specifically for those students. So that's that. Now, an important part of that for many of those students, but also for other students as well, is the extended project qualification. This is a particularly useful qualification for students who want to develop skills and habits that are especially relevant to higher education. So an extended project might be a dissertation, it might be a physical artifact, it might be a performance, but it allows the students to research above, beyond, and outside of the specifications of the subjects that they're currently studying. It's a really useful opportunity to open the minds of students as well as developing the skills of students. The Aspire lectures take place monthly on a Wednesday afternoon, and they will range from, we've had a student from the London School of Economics and Political Science last month. I'm hoping to secure an Oxford admissions tutor for this month. It may be a business leader, it may be a scientist, it may be an engineer. The idea for these talks or these lectures is to inspire students, open their horizons, and give them something to think about. Those Aspire lectures are available to every student, whether they are at Worthing or at Haywards Heath College. And at the moment, we are going to be doing them virtually, and we will record them. So if a student isn't able to access them on the afternoon, they'll be able to see them afterwards as well. Now, I did talk about UCAS preparation, and Julia said something about that already. But we help to support students to prepare themselves for UCAS. That's doing things now that can go on a personal statement or an application this time next year, supporting them through the specifics of making their application. And also, as number 5 says, early applicant support, making sure that they make their best possible application for the 15th of October for their early applicant, preparing them for their admissions tests, if they're undertaking admissions tests, giving them practice interviews in case they have to have an interview to get into Cambridge, Oxford, or wherever. So it's giving them very specific early applicants support. Next slide, please. So what the next slide does is just give you a bit of a timeline of the sort of things I've talked about. I do think of it very much in terms of a 2-year journey or a 1.5 year journey. We're just kicking off now with new students and the students who've just arrived, just started the CUP programme, looking at the students this year who are making their applications for September 2021, and then we'll work through the year supporting the students right up to the point where they make their application. So it's very much a sort of 2-year or a 1.5 year journey. Next slide, please. So this is a very, very challenging process, UCAS, and it's getting more and more difficult. So what we try to do is make sure we overcome as many of the hurdles as we can. The university process is quite challenging, quite difficult, and for some students who've not done it before, then they do need a lot of help. So either myself through the early applicants or the tutors through the UCAS advisor process will support the students and help them in every way possible to get them over the hurdles. And if nothing else, it does develop in them a growth mindset and a willingness to embrace all the challenges that this process will provide for them. Next slide, please. So this just gives you an idea of some of the sort of detail. We've had a range of, typically we have about 60 people attending the Aspire lectures, but as Ross has said already, if we have them online, we tend to get more people attending. So we'd hope to get more attending the Aspire lectures this year. Very active early applicants this year. I've just put the finishing touches to the references that will go off next week for the 15th of October deadline. So it's lots of activity. And the final one, just to sort of finish off, the final slide for me is just to say that what we're trying to do with Aspire is help every student in their aspirations and to target that support very specifically for the early applicants so that they can be as successful as they possibly can. And I look forward to dealing with some of the questions which I can see are coming up already later on in the Q&A session. Thank you very much for your attention this evening. Ross.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Right, so we're just going to move on to a brief presentation about First Generation now, which is a separate programme which is led by Lee Fulham, who's a member of the sports department. So Lee, over to you. Could we have the next slide, please?
Cool. So hi everyone, I'm Lee. I'm the First Generation Coordinator at Worthing College, and my role is about offering opportunities to students that are thinking about going to university. So the First Generation programme has been set up by the college, which offers students support and guidance throughout their Year 12 studies, and more importantly, helping them to transition from college life and study into university life and study. Next slide. So to be eligible for the programme, there's a wide range of criteria that you can tick. And as a side note, the students only need to be able to tick one of the following boxes in order to be eligible. Most students end up joining the programme because maybe parents never went to university, but some students will be part of the programme because maybe they were in care, their family has low income, or any of the other sort of criteria boxes that you can see on the screen that may relate to the student in some way. Next slide. So in terms of the benefits, there's a wide range of benefits that each university can offer. Some universities will offer guaranteed interviews for certain courses. Some will offer grade drops or extra UCAS points. So for example, if a university is asking for 3 A-levels at AAB, but you achieve a BBB, they will consider and accept your application. Universities will also offer bespoke workshops and taster days in specific subject areas. So for example, I took a group of students down to Southampton University for a media day, where the students met up with the lecturers and they spent the whole day filming a horror movie, learning how to edit, add in special effects, where other students were filming a TV game show. Other students have been down to Brighton University to look at sports journalism, which is a similar concept where they meet the teachers, they get on with the task, and they report back throughout the day. So every university hosts different types of events with different subjects, and you need to get the students to take advantage of what the universities offer. Aside from that, the universities can offer bursaries and scholarships, so basically free money to help with studies. The universities can offer you employment as a student rep or ambassador, so you can have a steady income whilst you're studying, and the universities can also offer specific advice and support with the UCAS applications to make sure that you stand out from everyone else. So, so now as for the universities involved, if you go to the next slide, please. There we go. These are some of the partner universities that offer a lot of the events and support to students. The main ones that have already been mentioned being Brighton, Sussex and Chichester, and other universities do offer other incentives and initiatives, but it's going to be down to you to go onto those university websites and have a look at what the programs are they run. So just as a side note, this program is not just about wanting to go to Brighton or Sussex University or any of the others that are on list. It's about using the universities for the resources they provide. So for example, you might want to go to Bath or Liverpool University, But for the next year, you might just want to use our partner universities to help you transition so that university life isn't so scary when you start, and also to get them to try out the different types of courses, and it will help you to make up your mind when it comes to picking those 5 UCAS choices. Okay, yep. That's it.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much, Lee, and to the others who've contributed. We're going to move on fairly soon to Colin's presentation about vocational courses, but we've got a few questions coming through, so I'll just pick up 1 or 2 of those. So there's a question from Suzanne. Are the students invited to do one-to-one sessions, or do they have to approach the Progression Plus team? Julia, are you still there?
I am here. Yes, I'm sorry, I've taken my camera away. Yes, students are signposted to all the different support available, so it's up to them to make the approach to whichever bit of support they want. So if they'd like a one-to-one, contact Progression Plus team, and that can be booked in straight away.
Great, thank you. Okay, there's a question about first generation here, Lee. It says, what if a parent has a degree obtained through independent study with Open University?
Again, it's based on the criteria. So there was quite a big list. So if household income is below 45,000, or if there's disability or care, if it's a low income, a low progression area in terms of postcode, it's also part of the tick list. So many students in and around, sort of the Worthing and Lancing area historically haven't really progressed onto university. So most students at Worthing College would be eligible based on postcode. So again, as long as the student ticks one of any of those criteria, they will still get all the extra sort of benefits and initiatives of those universities.
Thank you. There's a question about CUP, which says, are students invited to join the CUP programme, or has it been made open to all who are interested? It is initially done by invitation based on GCSE scores, but it is a programme which is open to being joined by students who have got a particular interest in making one of those early applications. So as Stephen was saying, it's those people who are interested in medicine or veterinary or dentistry or Oxbridge, and who've got who want to make an application to one of those destinations, then we would obviously want to make sure that there's support in place for those individuals. So you've got an email address in front of you there, info@worthing.ac.uk. Do please use that if you'd like to ask to be considered for any of the programs that we've mentioned. But yeah, we will obviously continue to promote opportunities as they happen throughout the year. Another question about first generation, Lee. How does the student get involved with first generation?
So from the beginning of the year, all the students would have taken part in a survey as part of their induction. So basically what I do is I just read off the report which had all of those questions answered. So I'll get a spreadsheet with all of my sort of yes and no's, and I'll sort of collate that into a spreadsheet of students. And once I know that, then I'll start to email those students and yourselves as parents. So any information that I get from universities, I always send a double email to parents and students, because sometimes students don't always check emails. So if your student is sort of eligible, they would have done that survey. If not, then again, feel free to send me an email and I'll add that student to the list. But I'll be pretty confident from that first week that they'll be on my radar at least anyway, and you'll get the information.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time, so we'll just do one last question, which is the EPQ a lot of extra work for students? You've done that for many years, Stephen. Do you want to just comment on that?
A short answer to that is, it is an extra bit of work. What we've tended to find is that the students who do it, particularly the ones that choose a topic that they're really interested in, it is effort that tends to repay itself in all of their subjects, both in terms of a deepening understanding of their subject and also an improvement in their study skills. So it would be wrong for me to say that there isn't extra work, but my experience is that a well-organised student who's doing something that they're very interested in rises to the challenge and benefits significantly from it. A student who is doing 4 A-levels may find doing an EPQ on top of it too much. A student doing 3 A-levels and is well organised, in most respects, should be able to cope as well with an EPQ.
Lovely. Thank you, Stephen. So I think that is all we've got time for on the university front. In a minute, I'm going to hand over to Colin, who is going to talk to us about vocational courses, but we are aware that this won't apply to many of you who are currently listening. So we fully understand that some of you may choose to leave the Zoom at this point, which is absolutely fine. But for those of you who are interested to find out a bit more about vocational courses, by which we mean things like BTECs and CAMTECs and RSLs, then do please stay with us, and I'll hand over to Colin, who'll take you through the next part. Colin.
Good evening. Thank you for staying on the last session of the evening. We'll just wait a few seconds if people are going to take their leave before we get going. Okay, so as Ross said, my name's Colin Ilsley. I'm one of the heads of learning at Worthing College. And I've been involved with the vocational courses for a lot of years. So I'm hoping that in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be able to give you a flavour of what vocational courses are and how they can significantly support student progression moving forward. Similar to the last session, if you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat function, and Ross will pick those up, and there'll be an opportunity to answer those as best we can when we get to the end of the session. So next slide, please. Okay, so vocational courses are assessed with what are called applied general qualifications. And basically, an applied general qualification is any course that's not an A level. So obviously, A levels are assessed at the end of 2 years. The difference to the applied generals is that they're assessed differently. They are the equivalent value to A levels, but they have just a mixed method of assessment. And on the page there are a list of some of the different applied general qualifications that we do. And just like GCSEs and A levels, you have different exam boards, and that's the same with the applied generals as well. So, yeah, we do BTECs, we do CAMTECs, we have City and Guilds, we do RSL, which is the Rock School qualifications, IBNF, which is the Institute of Banking and Finance. And then we do a Welsh Board qualification in criminology. So we have a range of different applied generals, but in many respects, the titles just link to the actual exam boards. Some of those you'll be familiar with, particularly BTEC, because they're taught in schools. City and Guilds is obviously got a history of industry qualifications. But some of them you'll be less familiar with, such as the Rock School and Banking and Finance and the Welsh Board. But these are the titles that go with many of the subjects that we do at Worthing and Haywards Heath. Next slide, please. So these are the options that we offer. At level 2, you'll see that at Worthing we offer a range of different subjects. Level 2 is the equivalent to GCSE. The level 3 ones that are there are the equivalent to A levels. And what you'll see is that many of them are in the same areas where we have A levels as well. So students have a choice. And this is the beauty of the mixed program, where they can choose a A-level pathway, a more applied general pathway, or a mixture of the two. So, you know, the A levels are assessed at the end of 2 years, and the applied generals have different assessment methods. It's not the assessment's normally spread over the 2 years. And generally, you will get a qualification at the end of the first year. So students have got will have some decisions to make about if they want to do business, do they want to do an A-level, or do they want to do an applied general. They're the same levels, same equivalents, but it's all about how they might want to be assessed. Okay, next slide, please. So the other things that students need to decide is actually how big a qualification they want to study. Applied generals come in different sizes, particularly the level 3 ones. And at college we offer a range of different sizes. So it's about how much the student wants to immerse themselves within that particular curriculum area. So for example, if you want to do applied law, we offer the 1 A-level equivalent. If you want to do business, you can do the 1 A-level equivalent or the 2 A-level equivalent. And then if you want to do sport and exercise science, you can actually, your whole study program could be the extended diploma, which is the equivalent to 3 A-levels. So when students come in, they'd have already had obviously long discussions about how much they want to devote to a particular curriculum area, and they come in different sizes, which support lots of students make positive choices in terms of mixing and matching their programs. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the one of the main focuses and one of the main reasons why students look for applied generals, because of how they are assessed. So on that previous list, I talked about criminology and finance. Those are assessed slightly differently because they're on an A to E scale, just like A-levels. But the vast majority of applied generals follow the pass, merit and distinction format. This is how they're assessed. So they will have coursework, they'll have exams and externally assessed tasks. So a whole mixture of different ways that they are assessed. All the applied generals will have exams, generally January and June, and there are resit opportunities should students need it or want to improve their grade. Whether it's an exam or whether it's a coursework, it's pass, merit and distinction that determines the level of achievement. And the key thing about applied generals is about students trying to be consistent, because you need to complete all the passes to get a pass overall, all the merits to get a merit overall, and all the distinctions to get a distinction overall. So there has to be a level of consistency right from the beginning of their studies to be able to be successful and maximise their time. So when they've completed a unit, all the unit scores get added up, and that will give you an overall grade. If the students are just doing a 1 A-level equivalent, that final grade will be either a P, an M, a D or a D star. If they're doing a triple, a 3 A-level equivalent, then their final grade could be a D, D, D. So you get a letter for that represents the size of the qualification. And as I said, you've got different assessment methods, which plays to people's strengths if they don't want to rely on the exams of an A-level at the end of 2 years. But whilst they're not A-levels, they still demand the same amount of attention and commitment as an A-level. So students that achieve high grades in applied generals need to spend about the same amount of time that they would in a class on independent study, researching, looking and making sure that they've completed assignments, doing resubmissions, and really challenging themselves to get those highest grades. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the clear benefits of applied generals is their flexibility. So if their students are doing a 3 A-level equivalent, it is a full-time course. But because they come in different sizes, they can be mixed and matched. So you will have students that are mixing them with other vocational qualifications, so other applied generals. They might be doing an A-level alongside them. They could be doing GCSE retakes on top. And as you can see from previous slides, there is a progression route from level 2 to level 3. As I also mentioned as well, in many areas, you've also got an A-level in the same subject area, which means that at times it's possible to transfer between the two, particularly when students are struggling at A-level. And because the qualifications, there is a qualification at the end of year 1, it does mean that people can change their mind at the end of year 12 and only study it for a year and then pick up another course. Alternatively, they can pick up new courses in year 13, depending on what's happened in year 12. So they are very flexible and very useful. And you'll see the note down there to work experience. The applied generals still have an emphasis on work experience because they are vocational. So the double and the triple applied generals all go out on work experience for a week each year. Now, obviously, there are some challenges around that at the moment, but that's the intention, that they take what they've learned in the classroom and try and apply it in the workplace, and similarly use their work experience to bring back to enhance their ability to challenge units. It doesn't mean that the single applied generals, they also have an opportunity to go out on work experience, and that tends to be at the end of the year. But work experience remains a real emphasis of the applied generals. Next slide, please. So in terms of progression, the impact of applied generals for progression shouldn't be underestimated. And there is 3 bits of information there that are really useful in just capturing the progression opportunities for students who are doing applied generals. Because for employment, apprenticeship, higher education, they all have significant value to students and to employers, apprenticeship providers, and higher education. So I'll just give you a little bit longer to digest those. Okay, if we can move on. And this definitely includes going into higher education and university. And this is a points table. And you'll see that how the points for UCAS, as you know, has been talked about before, are compared A-level and in this case BTEC, but BTEC represents all the applied generals. So, you know, an A-star at A-level is equivalent to a D-star in the applied generals. A C in A-level is equivalent to a merit. So if you can imagine that achieving a D-star in A-level is very difficult, but a D-star in an applied general may be more straightforward, maybe more attainable, because it's not relying on the end of 2 years and their exams. They've got a systematic process in place to continually be assessed and build on their achievements to ultimately challenge grades like D stars. So it's a really positive way to maximize UCAS points and therefore get to university. So if we go to the next slide, please. And this is just one example of how they might be used. So some universities will ask for specific courses, specific A-levels, depending on what the nature of the course is, you know, particularly those if it's dentistry, medicine, etc. But many universities now, it's about the points. It's about students demonstrating they have the ability to cope with a higher education program. So you can see that in this case, this is all about sports coaching, but it doesn't actually mention anything about sport. It's about students' their presentation of their UCAS points. And you'll see that it does mention, though, that those points can come from A-levels or from the applied generals. So using applied generals to maximize UCAS points is a really positive way forward. You will note that it does say about English and maths, so those GCSE qualifications are still key. Okay, next slide. And again, this is the University of Derby, this is business studies. The points is slightly higher than the one before. But again, they mention points, they don't mention particular A-level courses, but they do include applied generals as a way to get those points. So the use of applied generals to get to chosen destinations for students is really, really useful. And that's why many students will choose that route over A-levels. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we've just had a quick 15-minute look at the different courses that are offered at Worthing and Haywards Heath, the different sizes of them, how they might be mixed and matched to make a complete program. We've talked about how they're assessed differently to A-levels, how flexible they are in supporting students, and progression routes. So that's a bit of a snapshot. And if we've got any questions, then more than happy to try and answer them. Ross, to you.
Thank you, Colin. So we have got one or two questions which relate to this. Kim was asked, if a unit is passed with a merit, can you resit to get a better result?
That depends on the actual exam board. So for some exam boards, you're allowed to do that. Some you're not allowed to do that. So it does depend. The key thing is that when students submit work, they get resubmission opportunities. And therefore, every time a piece of work is submitted, we are looking for students obviously to challenge the highest possible grade that's attached to that assignment. But part of the process is that they will get that back and have an opportunity to upgrade it. So by using that method, we try and ensure that students reach the highest level possible, so that assignment by assignment, they manage to pick off the higher grades for the units. Therefore, it sort of limits the need to actually revisit units at the end.
Great, thank you. And there's one more question which looks like it might be from an applicant possibly rather than a student who's enrolled. I'm thinking about studying BTEC psychology. I was wondering if it'd be easier to study GCSE psychology first through distance learning.
The psychology courses, whether it's applied psychology, which is the BTEC, or whether it's the A-level, don't require you to study GCSE psychology. If there's an opportunity for you to study it, then I think that's a really positive move. But because it's not offered in many schools, we don't ask for it as part of our entry requirements. So therefore, students that don't do it to GCSE aren't disadvantaged. But if you've got an interest and a passion to do it, and you're committed to doing it virtually, then yeah, go ahead, because it's not going to do any harm, and will just help reinforce many of the concepts that you'll probably come up against when you move forward to level 3.
Thank you. Right, I can't see any more questions coming through about the vocational courses, and we did aim to finish at 7:15, so I think we'll finish there. Just a thank you to Colin and to all the contributors this evening, and thank you for joining us and giving us some of your Tuesday evening. I hope it's been useful. Do please get in touch if you've got further questions, and you can approach us through teachers or through the tutor, or by using that email address we showed you earlier, info@worthing.ac.uk, and we'll be happy to help. I will stay online and just type answers to one or two questions which we didn't get to, so you're welcome to say if you'd like to hear answers to those things. But for now, thank you again very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in person at some time in the future, hopefully. All the very best. Thank you.
Good night. Ross, thanks for doing that.
No problem, Colin. Thank you very much for your time. That's great. Yeah, I think I will just stay here and just finish off answering a few of these questions, and then I'll call it a day. But I think otherwise, I think we're all done. Thank you very much.
No worries. Bedtime.
Yeah.